Shall we start?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I would like to introduce to you guys my two special guests. I have here in the middle Liz Manashil, the director of the film and the writer of the film, and also Sean, who plays Riley, as you might have recognized. Just to give you guys some background on Liz, and then I'll contextualize the class for you in a minute. But Liz is, as you could see today, a wonderful director and writer, and she's I feel like a director who has a very strong sense of dialogue and what people want to see, and she's one of my favorite directors. I know that's sort of like a subjective, I don't know what subjective or objective means. Subjective opinion. But I just thought that, since this class is a comedy class, that your movie would be perfectly fit into our lineup. And we're kind of watching.
To me, because I never really thought it was a comedy.
Comedy, yeah.
And then it played and people laughed and I was like, oh, my neurosis is funny to others. So I guess it's a comedy.
Yeah. This film is your first.
This is my first feature.
First feature, and you are currently working on your second feature titled Speed of Life.
I am 3 weeks away from locking, like sound locking. We picture locks and everything like that. We're just in visual effects for my second feature.
Great. And then you have also done, you were also in Just Seen It, which is a web series that reviews currently released movies, right?
Liz
she's very humble, but Liz was a co-producer and one of the co-hosts on that show.
Yeah,
and it ran for a short while.
Directed for the show, helped put the show together, and we're on the show. It was basically like Wayne's World, but movie reviewers. And we shot in our showrunner's living room. He would hate if I said that because it wasn't as cool as Wayne's World. But it was like community access television show. We ended up on Hulu and PBS, and only my parents watched it. So it's very nice of you to mention it. But
I watched it.
I watched
it. I guess I'm sort of like a parent, right? I watched it, and Sean was involved in that as well, right? And you want to say a couple things about yourself and the awesome projects that you're on?
I don't know. You saw me in the movie. I'm in Speed of Life, fortunately.
He has
for me.
a sex scene in Speed of Life. Like if you liked him here, you could see a lot more, but maybe you could see his nipples in Speed of Life.
It's more like an entrance into a sex scene rather than a sex scene.
Yeah, there's something going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm mainly working in the industry in post-production. I was just on a film called Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase, which is like a reboot of the Nancy Drew series. It's coming out in March, and I'm gonna transition and be part of the Lego Movie Part 2, whatever that's called. So that's what I'm gonna start working on in the next couple of weeks.
Great, and this is my lovely class. These poor students have been locked in here for 11 weeks, and I am forcing my tastes on them. We've been watching a bunch of different comedic films, starting from like the earliest screwball film, buddy comedies, till present day. So everything is sort of chronological. And so since we're winding down our semester, it was just so opportune that you could come tonight, and this is actually perfect. I kind of want to start the process off just by talking about like what your process was, and then maybe we can sort of, if you think of a question, you guys feel free to just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Or somebody can start. Does anybody have a question they'd like to start with? Sure, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Josh. First of all, I enjoyed the film.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here. I have a question for Liz. So, as a director and writer on this film, what was your motivation for it?
To make a movie.
Like for the story.
I was thinking about this. I am incredibly awkward, but I was always incredibly awkward. And I watched a lot of romantic comedies, a lot of movies, but I tend to really like romantic comedies. And I never understood why someone like me or like my experience level was never represented on screen. So that was my inspiration, was to make a movie about romance that was failed, that was awkward, that was uncomfortable. I wanted a lot more pregnant silences, but my editors were like, people will fall asleep. So that was the motivation. And then I'm trying to think, was there, I don't know, is there something I have for that?
I mean, you definitely called it an anti-romantic comedy.
Yeah, it was a response to romantic comedies. And then also, I grew up wanting to be a filmmaker, and so this is the first script I ever wrote, and I was just die hard about making it, and so I just went hell or high water with it. So it's not like this film represents everything I want to do as a filmmaker, but it was cheap enough, and I believed in it enough to make it the first feature.
Hold your hands up if you guys are a film major here on campus. Okay, so a good handful of them, yeah. So do ask the questions that you're dying to ask, throughout the evening. I think we have plenty of time.
Cool.
I keep freaking out because that clock is still an hour ahead.
Oh.
But so this film is like a lot of things to me, and I've watched this film quite a few times, and it's an enjoyable film, but it's really about, I feel like there's a lot of topics, right? Sexuality of a young woman, right? The painful tension of, terrain, or I should say the painful terrain of contemporary dating. It's about being socially awkward. And it sort of dabbles in the arena of mental health, right? Mm-hmm. So my question for you is, did you set out to make a film with all of these themes together, or did it kind of happen organically with the actors?
There was not a lot of improv, so everything was really the script. And I was in a screenwriting class. I went to USC, I'm sorry, and if there's a rivalry or something. I don't know.
Not with LBCC, maybe with UCLA, right?
Oh, yeah, they suck. And I had two ideas for my first script. One was a girl who fell in love with a guy who was losing his mind, and also a girl tracking down someone through marginalia, like writings in a book margins. And neither was enough for me to be sufficient for one script, so I combined both those ideas. And then I just threw in all the things that I cared about. Like I don't really know a lot about mental health, but I know a lot about anxiety. I know a lot about being able to let go, and being able to, being very much a control freak. So Amelia is a control freak, and the whole thing is her journey to let go of that a little bit. And then, we talked about awkwardness, talked about my romantic experience, though I'm pregnant right now, so that's fun. And things have changed. So it just came out of things that I wanted to talk about organically, and kind of smushing them all together in a palatable, hopefully palatable way.
Yeah, definitely like an entertaining and engaging way. I think that I might be sort of like revealing my own lack of sense in the world, but like I feel like this movie is kind of ahead of the curve a bit, right? Because I watched this film before I had learned about, safe spaces on college campuses, and like, that anxiety is something that people are embracing as something that afflicts many, many people, and I feel like this film sort of like makes it okay to talk about these things. But it also was released, it's been 3 years that it's been out, right? It's 4 years? Yeah, so it's like doubly, triply progressive in my mind in that arena, right? Like it's sort of like, you had no way to predict this, so I feel like it's sort of like inadvertently ahead of its time, I don't know how the audience felt, right? But like when I watch it, I feel like it's okay to talk about the awkward things that the movie sort of like openly broaches, or openly discusses. And I always appreciate that in a movie, movies that kind of talk about difficult topics.
Yeah. I work at Sundance. I don't know if Linus mentioned that. And what I do at Sundance is I consult with filmmakers about marketing and distribution, and how to like form their brand, which sounds like an evil phrase, but I swear to God it's not. And I think something about that, when you're a filmmaker, you have to set yourself out from the pack and you have to embrace your personality. And so that's, what I did in writing this film. We just talked about really vulnerable things that I really cared about. And then when I did, a lot of people were like, oh, I have the same problem. I also don't know which eye to look at when I talk to people. And, also I was a late bloomer. So the making of the film was also an exercise in mental health for me, because it was earning confidence as an artist and learning to trust yourself.
Yeah, I think you did what a lot of artists set out to do, which is rest with their demons in their first project. I feel like, you guys must know this going to a film school, and I learned this when I was in film school myself, that a lot of people's first movies, or even their first 2 or 3 movies, are about themselves, whether they realize it or not. Right? And it's always kind of interesting when you go to the screening and you watch somebody's first movie, and it's kind of like humorously similar to how you see that person, and it's even more striking that sometimes the filmmaker doesn't really realize it.
Oh yeah.
But this film seems very self-aware to me. It's very conscious. It's obviously it's created by a filmmaker and a team of filmmakers who, like, they have a mission, right? And I feel like, I don't know, I'm kind of riffing here. I feel like I kind of want you to talk more about the mission of the movie, right?
Well, I could talk about that. Like when we cast Chrissy's our lead. Her name's Christine Weatherup, and she's amazing. I may have seen her in Westworld or Grey's Anatomy.
She was in Westworld.
She's great. I found her because I couldn't figure out how to cast this lead. I felt very attached to Amelia, and I wanted someone who was like me. I was looking for like a weird mousy girl, and no one was weird and mousy enough for me. And also I was looking for someone with a little bit of meat on their bones, because I can't stand just watching and looking at like stick figures on screen, and it drives me nuts. So that's also part of it, is like I wrote this letter that said I'm looking for the lead to my film, and it got published in IndieWire, and Chrissy wrote and said, I really liked your article. People have trouble casting me because I'm not cookie cutter. And by the way, here's my reel, and it'd be nice to meet. And she auditioned and she knocked it out of the park. And it was like this lesson to me that even if you make a movie about yourself, it doesn't have to be, Chrissy's like a gorgeous, like Amazon-esque model. Like she's very tall, she's got red hair, and she's, we dressed her down a lot. But when you're making a movie about yourself, I think she exhibits a lot of qualities in the character, not even without inhabiting them physically, but while still being able to reflect who I think the core of Amelia is, and kind of me 5 years ago. I don't know if that's helpful.
No, yeah,
that's a riff that you wanted.
No, that was a good start.
Good
yeah,
riff. Okay.
Yeah, it was a great riff. So would you say that this movie is autobiographical?
I tell people it is. It's like 30% autobiographical. Mm-hmm. There is a Daniel, there is a Leonard.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Oh yeah, there is. And Daniel got upset with me. His name is Daniel. I didn't hide it well. And he Facebook messaged me one day. He's like, I saw your movie. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, was that me?
Oh, he recognized himself.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's like, is that me? And I was like,
that's always awkward.
Yeah, that was you. But in the best way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean it in the best way. And I think he was taken aback too. Bobby's the most charming guy in the universe.
Yeah.
But I don't think everyone sees themselves as that character.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, and Leonard found out too, and he wrote me a letter, and he loved it. He was like, thank you for reflecting a time in my life that was really hard, because he was losing his mind when I knew him and when I met him, and I was in between these two men. Sorry, Sean, I'm talking about my dating history. Sean's like my partner, he got me pregnant. So, like, I just want to make this as comfortable for him as possible in this moment. So, those are the autobiographical elements. Like, Daniel and Leonard are autobiographical. Amelia's, I think, similar to me in a lot of ways with, our need for control. There's no life coach. My parents are like that, though. So,
like the parents depicted in the film.
Yeah.
You want to say that on camera?
No, they're not. I mean, they do watch it.
It's already on camera. Yeah.
All right.
I told them.
Um,
I'll get a letter from them.
Yeah, I'm like,
I tend to blab a lot, they know. So I kind of want to let the class fire a couple questions, and then when there's a pregnant pause, like you say, then I'll jump in again. So does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? Yeah.
Exactly how do you write like a movie? Because I'm trying to write something right now, and it's weird to discuss the process that it happens, but for me it's very spontaneous and it's very at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I can never get anything. When I'm writing, it's like I get a piece of the middle in it, and I'm like, okay, so that happens, and then I'm like, okay, I'm trying to write the beginning, but I don't know what happens then. And I'm just like, I know a little bit of piece of what happens close to the end, but still, yeah.
My advice probably won't help, but I'm gonna say what I do, and then I'll say what's worked for other people. I just sit down and I write, and I just do 20 minutes a day. I don't require a page count of myself. I just say you have to sit, stare at the computer, stare at. I used Celtics, which was free, but Final Draft, whatever it is you use. Stare at it for 20 minutes without going on Facebook, without going on Google News or whatever it is. That was really helpful. You'd think that that's bad advice or just really simple, but forcing yourself to get in the habit is the first thing. The second thing is don't require perfection of yourself. Just vomit out all the ideas you have, and then you could rearrange them in the order that you need. Even if you think you have the beginning and you have the middle, that might end up being the beginning, and then you can go back and there's a reason why you're having trouble connecting those two things, and you should listen to that voice, I think. Maybe start in the middle, right to the end, and then go back. What everyone else does, which I don't do because I just vomit out whatever I want to write and then I fix it for like a year afterwards, is beat sheets and outlines and things like that. I mean, have you tried a beat sheet?
No, not really.
They suck, but they work for a lot of people, and just marking down what scenes you think you need and creating a chronology could be helpful. But I highly recommend timing yourself. Celtics has a timer at the bottom of the page, so you know how much you've written and how much you've just sat there, and you can add it up and get to 20 minutes every day.
Don't if I can just jump in and add something, like don't censor yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's your creation. So there's always time to edit out things. But if you're editing it out in your mind, then you might miss the opportunity to put down something that is really special.
And just one more thing. I mean, what I used to do is, I think it's from Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird, but it's like you create like a treasure chest. You create a repository where you just write things that you think are badass. And then when you're stuck, go look there and be like, oh, I could put that there. So like if you're walking down the street and you see like, what's something that's badass that happens?
on the street?
Yeah.
Leaves falling.
If you see leaves falling, you're like, that's badass. And you just write it down. And then you at least have something to write later when you're stuck.
As an image, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. That was a great question. Yeah. Fina?
I wrote a film, short film. How do I go about getting it licensed or copyrighted? So if I decide to put like on YouTube or something, or if it's still that idea.
To get it, interesting how to get, I mean, I don't even know what that is, to be honest, because I just make shorts or features, and the features are done under an LLC. The shorts are done by me individually, and I just put them up on Vimeo. So there's nothing stopping you from putting it up on any sort of platform, as long as you own the rights to the music and everything like that. The problem is you want to use your shorts for audience building. So you want to, we always suggest putting shorts behind an email wall. So putting it up on Vimeo, having a password, and then telling people about it, and then saying, please email me if you want to see the short. You got their email address now. You have them for life. They're yours. Then you create an email list where you can then communicate with a group of people regularly. I feel like that's not answering your question, but tell me,
Well,
follow
I
up.
I wrote a script,
Yeah.
and I was wondering how I could keep that idea to myself, where if I put it out there, somebody can't redo the film their
Oh,
way.
you could register with the WGA.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the cheapest way of doing it. I mean, there's definitely other ways to kind of protect yourself legally, but I think WGA registration is maybe like $130, and then you get like a number, and then you have like a thread. But in all honesty, like I openly share all my ideas for all my projects. I think there's like a lot of fear about sharing your really good idea, but no one's gonna make it like you. So don't worry too much about someone stealing that idea. And make it.
Yeah.
Oh, I made it.
Good. We'll make it
Yeah.
to something else. Keep doing things.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, it's I think that many filmmakers feel the same way, and I think that just from personal experience, like if somebody actually steals it and makes it, you have a case. You have a case,
Yeah, but they're not gonna make it like, I mean, look at
Exact-
Shark Tale
right,
and Finding
yeah.
Nemo. I mean,
but also it's kind of flattering. I think if somebody like, I mean, all of my stuff is like on the web. Like I
Yeah.
can't stop it from being copied, and like when somebody just kind of uses it and they don't realize that it's copyrighted, like that's cute, that's fine. You can always go after them later.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's always time to go after people. Yeah.
I have two questions. So in terms of directing your actors, how do you personally go about doing it? Like, do you let them, like, you just tell them keep this in mind or something like that, and then have them play it out, or is there something specific, like where you almost play it out for them, or like how specific do you get in terms of directing them?
I had my first feature was a 16-day shoot, and my second feature was a 12-day shoot. You don't really have the luxury of being like the weird dorky director that you want to be, speaking in like metaphors and like getting in the dirt with the actor. That was what I wanted to be a filmmaker, because I wanted to like say something inspiring to my actor that would like transform them into this fabulous performance. And I learned the hard way that that's not what I got to do. So in rehearsals, we would do table reads, and they would ask me questions that are a little bit more specific than I would answer. I was never preemptive. I always waited to see what they came up with first, and then sent them adjustments. And I have friends who are filmmakers who are afraid of adjustments. Do you guys all know the term adjustment? Is that like a term that other people use?
I think we could use
like-
a definition. I don't remember.
It's
Yeah.
like when someone gives you a performance, the adjustment is just the note afterwards. But it's just like people like to use that word a lot. What you want to do, or what you can do, is if you're afraid of adjustments and you're afraid of being put on the spot by the actor, is like have a piece of paper and be prepared for like 5 adjustments that you're just like, so you sound like you know what you're doing, which is what I do all the time. And I think you should answer this question too, but like, you're supposed to do it action-oriented directing. So you're never supposed to say, be sad, be happy. You're supposed to say, act as if it's the first day of school and, you're really looking forward to lunch. Like, speaking in like really long-winded phrases instead of saying being happy. But you can write those down and prepare in advance. And I know you have another question, but he actually acts and would be more helpful with this.
Well, I mean, I would say that there's no set way to direct, film, a scene, an actor. Everybody finds their own voice in that way, as with anything. If you want to talk about like the classical theory of it, generally the idea is that everyone has an objective within a scene, within a framework of a piece, so that every character is doing something to either achieve that objective or to block somebody else's objective, essentially. It can get a little heady, and not everybody goes into a scene. It's like, well, your intent is to kill that person. I mean, it doesn't get that specific. It tends to get very subtle. But a director is generally armed with what do they want this scene to build to? What do they want it to start at? And what do they want it to finally finish at? And when she's talking about adjustments, generally the idea is if they're off course, if they're veering off and not getting to the destination in which you want them to go to, you need something to come in and right their wrong and steer them in the right direction, which is generally...
I never do that though. Like, you're saying things that I really should be doing.
Again, you don't have that much time.
Right.
But I mean, if you're also the Alfred Hitchcock method is just everything is done beforehand, everything is pre-planned, and the people that you cast in the roles are cattle, and you just cast correctly. And if you cast correctly, you don't have to tell them a damn thing. They just go out and do it. A lot of directors would tell you that's really directing more than anything else.
It's like
That's how they
99%
want to direct it.
casting.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have to say a word to Bobby Moynihan. He came in, I think everything was his first take. I mean,
Yeah.
probably. It was amazing. But I know you had something, a second thing,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, thank you. The other one was specifically for the relationship between the director and the cinematographer. Like when you're planning out like the shots first of all, and when you're on set. Like how closely do you work with them planning out like each individual shot, or do you like have them come up with it for certain parts and specific parts you want, and then you come in and learn some of that?
At USC, we're taught that the director does the shot list, and the director does the storyboards, director does overheads. And so all the cinematographers we worked with at USC, they would come in and they would expect to be given those things, and then they'd be, ordering the equipment based off of what the director wants, and being prepared to move on the director's plan. I don't like doing that because I think there's a reason that the cinematographer is there. I mean, they have much more expertise than I do. So I did all the shot lists and the overhead storyboards for the first film, and Katie Walker, we went through them together before we shot, and she was very loose and very, kind and liberal, and just went with it, and then we adjusted if we needed to consolidate setups or whatever. On my second feature, I worked with a cinematographer where we built the shot list together. And she's like, what if we do this? And I was like, yeah, that's great. And then we could add on this. And it was much more collaborative, and I enjoyed that way more. It took a lot more time. But then she knew what equipment to get well in advance. She'd pull in favors well in advance because she was part of the creation of the shot list, and she was more invested, I would say. So it depends on you. I think having a list of comps, visual comp films to give your cinematographer is required.
You want to explain what the comp film is?
Yeah, just like films that are aesthetically similar to your film. And you would do that for a production designer. You would go and you'd find a film that has a similar color palette, a similar tone, same for your editor, similar pace to the film you wanted. And those reference points become vital at a certain point in the process.
That's all the director's job. So like
Yeah.
make those little reels for
Yeah.
all of them.
To inspire your crew.
Right.
And then the crew kicks ass if you do it right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question, actually. Like, how much of the job is delegated, and how much does the director actually do, right? Because before, I remember when I was back in the day when I was super young, I thought that directing was one thing, and then I learned what directing actually is, and it's actually a lot more hands-off than you realize. And I think that, this is just who I am. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing what you suggested, which is creating a lookbook for somebody, I think that actors and editors and cinematographers appreciate it when you say, oh, I want this to look like that scene from Blade Runner or something, right? I mean, at least it starts the conversation, Yeah. So I think that was a great response. So don't be shy, guys. Anybody else have a question? And I will repeat, I keep forgetting to do this, but I will repeat your questions so that it's heard some of you guys have very tiny voices. Anyone else? Come on, guys. This is your time. Is there anything that you wanted to share or ask the audience?
I talk to filmmakers a lot because, again, my job requires it, and I talk a lot about micro-budget filmmaking and I'm very open about the budget of my films, and I think that might be helpful just because before I became a filmmaker, I didn't think I was capable of putting together a budget that could be sufficient for a feature. So just so you know, this film was made for under $100,000. That may sound, I don't know if that sounds like a lot or a little. Does that sound like a lot? Does it sound like a little? Little? Okay. Yeah, it was. It was tiny. And the production budget came in around 70,000. Post was around 30, and it was pieced together. And I was always very transparent with all crew members about how we had nothing. So I'm sorry for that, Linus.
Sorry.
It was pieced together through crowdfunding. $36,000 of that was a Kickstarter campaign. 2 credit cards, which amassed for like $15,000 to $20,000. Two small investors, and I found them because they took pity on me, really, and that was about $30,000. So you could see, like, you add all these little, they're not little sums of money, they're little sums of money for the film industry. For me, $30,000 is like a really nice car. So I don't say that, like, I'm not trying to say that really informally, like, oh, just $30,000. Like, that was impressive and terrifying to me. But you can make a movie for far less than Hollywood tells you can. Every actor in this film, Sean didn't get paid anything. Sorry, Sean, for outing you.
It's still coming, right?
No. All the other actors, sorry, Sean, got paid scale, which is, SAG requires a base level salary for its actors, which is about, I think at this time it's about $120 a day. I think it's now about $140 a day. Our crew was being paid nothing, very little, minimum wage. So, no, it's possible. It's possible to make smaller projects. Every short I've made has been less than $1,000, usually around $300. And then my second features are on the same budget level. And it was funded in part from the money I made from this film, which, we're on Hulu right now, and that's the real moneymaker, is getting on something like Hulu. So people usually ask, like, budget, or how did you put that together? And I don't have experience in finance. I'm not an investment banker. I didn't have this money hanging around. But I did a Kickstarter campaign, and that kind of spurred on and convinced people that I was going to make a project. And then once they saw I was serious, they started to come on board.
I think that more importantly than money is you want to create, and this is easier said than done, right? But you want to create a project that people believe in. And I think that when I read the script to this film, it felt like the completed movie already. Like, I understood what was happening with every page. And I think that the film is sort of a testament to the fact that everyone got it. And I think that it helps to have a project that everyone believes in. And if we can kind of springboard the conversation into your crew, I'd love to talk about your crew, because I guess one thing that is kind of like on the minds of a lot of artists now is more visibility for female filmmakers, right? And you're a lady director and
I am.
a lady writer,
That is
and
me.
a lot of your crew were girls and
Ladies.
super
Yeah.
talented people in their own right. And can you tell me a little bit about the excitement level and the passion behind the project, and when you could feel that?
I mean, looking back, I think there was passion. In the midst of it, just terror. But looking back, somehow we convinced a lot of fabulous people to come on board. As a female filmmaker, or as someone who feels underrepresented in the industry, it was important for me to give jobs and opportunities to other people like me, So we did, I think almost every department head was a woman, except for editorial. Our co-editor was a woman and our editor was a man.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys.
Oh, the composers?
Yeah. You guys are both
We're
boys.
basically like a married couple. Yeah.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's great.
But what about special effects?
We didn't have any special
I
effects
see.
on Bread and Butter. So that was important to me. And I thought it would also be a marketing ploy, too. Like, speaking transparently, I was like, let's talk about how this is a woman-made film about women, and it doesn't help you at all, to be honest. It's like there was no one was like, let me eat that up, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And a lot of female filmmakers will talk about how their film is aiming for gender parity, and that's great, and I think we should talk about it, but it's not going to help you financially, which I was disappointed by, because I thought people would want to support us more. I worked with mainly USC crew, just because those were the crew members that I knew, and I used USC email lists to find them. So we have, I don't know if LBCC has something like this, but we have something called Women of Cinematic Arts. So I'd email out the opportunity to them. If you guys are aware of WIMPs, Women in Motion Pictures, if not, please join it right this second. If you email me, and I have cards if anyone wants a card, I can tell you how to join WIMPs. And it's a fantastic email listserv where women are hiring women and getting them in this industry, and really it's fabulous. And if you're looking for a resource, you just email it out to WIMPs, and some WIMP will have it and will be able to help you.
That's easy to remember. Yeah.
Right?
Perfect.
So the resources were there for me to connect with those women, the talented crew members. And then I met you through USC, through Lindsay.
Yeah, is that how we met? I feel like I know when we first met.
I think you came to our 508 screening.
I did.
And
Did you work with Lindsay?
No,
Oh.
I had a film there, but you had worked with Lindsay on her 508.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And I came to see yours, and I just basically walked up to you and talked to you, and that's all I remember. But I know it was on campus. Mm-hmm. And then I guess we didn't reconnect on this until years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every friendship counts, guys.
It's true, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's what I talk about when I talk about crowdfunding. Has anyone crowdfunded here? No one really? No one has crowdfunded in this room?
It's the economy of our time, begging. Yeah.
And it's
Not
kind
above
of
it.
like dipped down, but like when I did a crowdfunding campaign, I put everyone I'd ever met in my life on my email list, and people I thought who did not remember me or didn't like me at all were willing to give a little bit of money, and that is a testament to like every single connection, friendship, Facebook ad is helpful.
Yeah. Ask them for money, right? We have another question, Athena?
How do you know you have a good script?
Oh, I still don't.
Can I repeat the question?
I have a good script.
So the question is, how do you know when you have a good script,
Yeah,
right?
People want to back it, like you said, that you had the Kickstarter and all that.
Yeah.
So how do you know you have a good script and people want to back it? Or-
Delusion, honestly. I mean, like, I call it filmmaker delusion. You have to be somewhat delusional in order to be a filmmaker. And you have to convince yourself that your idea is worth being out in the world, because there's going to be a lot of doubts constantly coming in that say, like, why this? Why are you doing this? It's good enough to be in the world because you made it. And it's like a feedback loop almost, or it's like the snake eating its own tail. I don't know. There's some sort of metaphor for this. It's good because you've made it. That's what I think. And also because you finished writing it. I think when you start writing a script, you give up on it, it's not good enough because you gave up on it. I know it's not the most helpful answer. Also, it's not as if like I wrote Bread and Butter and I was like, this is the hill I want to die on. I want people to know me for this film. It was like, oh, I finished it. Let me fucking make a movie, right? So that was my goal. And then, the second film, I'm still, like, I don't think it's that great. I'm very proud of it, but is it worth being out in the world? Really not. There's like tons of, is it The Godfather? No. But we made it. I think the goal is to keep on getting better and better and better. And the first script may not be very good at all. But then you hide behind editing, behind great cinematography, behind fantastic performances, and you fix it as you go.
I think the goal is to never give up,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you know,
And
if
don't
you
be hard on yourself.
right, yeah. I mean, if you talk to anyone who's successful or even semi-successful in your life, you know, I mean, there's a common thread, and I think that it's that they don't stop trying even if they did a bad job, right? And that actually is a lot harder to do than to say it, right? I mean, like, I don't know if I even practice what I preach, you know, but people who are good at their art, they don't show you the 100 or 50 times that they stumbled and screwed up. You only see the project that they were willing to show you sometimes, you know? And so one of the things that I learned when I moved to Los Angeles is that not every movie that you fell in love with was that filmmaker's first try.
Yeah.
And that was rewarding for me to learn, right? And because, you know, even the people that you worship, even the people that you love are not perfect, you know, and they kept going, and they fielded rejection, and they kept going even though everything seemed lost on their first project, you know.
I mean, we're obsessed with the movie Rocky. We've seen every single Rocky movie. My best friend made me a Rocky cake for my birthday. It has like a bruise under his eye. It's like great. You watch Rocky, it doesn't have perfect sound. There are shots out of focus. I think Mickey and Polly are problematic characters personally. I know you don't. You think Mickey's perfect.
Mickey's perfect.
But, I mean, Adrian needs a little bit more depth, but like, it's still perfect to me, right? And it hit me at a time that it was the movie I needed to see. So don't put yourself up to the most impossible standards when you write a script.
Yeah, another?
So I have a question, like about your goal. So like what is like your big dream, like where you want to end up,
Yeah.
where you would like to end up, like working at a studio as a director, or maybe doing independent films, or budgets, or just like what motivates you to do that, and what is that you want to do?
Can I repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question was, if I may, what is your goal as a filmmaker? Like, where do you see yourself? And like, do you want to be you said studio director? Like studio director, or
just, you know, what is it?
yeah, what is it that you want to be when you grow up, I guess?
I sit in this place at Sundance where I know that filmmakers are not making a lot of money with their films. This is something we should all know right now. Filmmakers are not making money. Even, especially, I mean, in the independent world. I don't know anything about the studio world. So my plan is to keep on making micro-budget films until someone notices me, and to force them to notice. So, you know, I made my first film in 2013. We shot this film in April, Speed of Life, the next film that we're doing. After I pop out this baby in a few years, we're gonna make another one and keep on going. My goal is to be the filmmaker that probably no one in this room talks about, but that like has a certain level of credit and cachet in the industry where she can get things greenlit. So for me, it's Nicole Holofcener, if anyone knows. No one knows the name. That's cool. I want to be like her, the person that no one knows in this room. It's like a weird goal. Or like Jeff Nichols would be like a really, really cool career where he's making like thoughtful, interesting films, but he's not, you know, not Eastwood or Spielberg or anything like that. My whole philosophy is outstay the competition and keep on going and reduce your overhead so that you can outstay the competition. Keep your budgets low. Think of filmmaking as a hobby. Don't make it your entire career, because it's not sustainable. Find a day job that allows you weekends, evenings, and vacation time. I shot my second feature while taking 12 days of vacation time from my day job. So things may change in the future. I think the dream of being a full-time director is it's kind of disappearing unless you're in TV. It's really sad. Sorry to say that out loud.
But there's a lot of other venues, I think.
There's absolutely.
You know.
But I do think if you think of filmmaking as a passion and a love and as a hobby, and you don't rely on it financially, you'll be happier, because no one's making money until things change and people are paying for our content and treating us well and really respecting art. you have a different opinion?
No, not on that particular thing. I mean, if we want to talk about the industry as a whole, I think it's changing dramatically, and I don't know where it's going. I think the traditional directors of the last 20 years that are prestigious and well-known, I don't know that that's what people are going to be in 10, 15 years. I mean, I think independent cinema has gone to TV right now. And in fact, a lot of independent filmmakers have gone back to television, like David Lynch. They say, you know, motion pictures aren't the way to make your stories anymore. It's in the television market. So, you know, whatever you want to be, I don't think that was the original question, but we've kind of gone on to that.
I mean, there's still outliers.
Tangent. There's plenty of different ways to do it, and in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, there'll probably be even more ways to do it and to have your voice be heard and to get content out there. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that answered your question, right?
I have a rebuttal.
Oh yeah, he wants
Yeah.
a rebuttal. Yes.
I mean, well, not really.
Yeah, a follow-up question, right?
Follow-up.
Yeah.
Not really a question. Well, I guess. So you're saying like most of the, so I guess like, because I know it's, today lots of shows are going on Netflix and Hulu, and those are getting bigger and bigger because it's cheaper for especially students to watch a movie or show on Netflix or Hulu than to go to the theater to go watch, to pay, you know, to go watch the movie in the theater. You know what I mean? So like.
There's a larger subscriber base that
Yeah.
supports
Yeah,
Netflix.
exactly.
Okay.
So like so I guess for like filmmakers, like it's more realistic to move towards TV than to do like feature films because that's just where all the money is.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, until, you know, remember MoviePass? Remember that thing? That was amazing because it proved to America that people actually wanted to go to the movies, which we had all lost sight of for years. So there may be still hope for theatrical releases for films and that, you know, cinephile lifestyle that we used to all go to the movies, right? Like it used to be a couple dollars, you go every weekend and you really had a good time, and then we got priced out of going. And then tentpole movies started growing and growing, and Twilight and Marvel. I love Wonder Woman, I'm not a hater, but like there's a lot of crap out there. But yeah, Netflix got so powerful because they own the data on their subscribers, and they have a direct channel to viewers through the $9.99 or $11.99 monthly rate now. They're incredibly powerful, but the problem is they've turned into a studio. So all their productions are in-house, which means an independent filmmaker still has to somehow worm their way into that world, which is just as hard as it was to worm your way into the studio world. So in terms of having agency as an artist, a lot of us are still left out in the cold, making our micro-budget films. But again, if you control the money, if you crowdfund, if you work with low budgets, if you work in shorter days or shorter shooting schedule, and you maintain a lot of control, you can combat them in the long game, if that makes sense. You're not going to beat them because they have major publicity arms and they have all the power. But if you get into Sundance, if you get into Tribeca, if you push your way through and you stay, that's the strategy I think works best for those who don't want to or aren't able to go to Hulu or Netflix. That would be amazing though. Like if I could direct Haunting of Hill House season 2, dream, right? It's amazing. So good.
But I wanted to add something. If I'll get yours. I think that you said something that was kind of commendable. Like you were talking about, you know, Mike Nichols being your hero, and
Jeff Nichols, but I love Mike Nichols.
Yeah, sorry, Jeff Nichols, right? And the independent voice being like something to aspire to, right? Because I think that as an artist, you want a niche of fans that are diehard and will back you, you know, rather than to only aim for being the best of the best and having a bunch of just casual friends, or casual fans. I think that it says a lot more about your integrity as an artist if you can develop that kind of fan base and then work your way up, rather than saying to yourself that I will, consider everything else short of being a studio director a failure. I think that mentality is what's going away.
It's also, you want to be able to control the story rather than have the story control you.
Yeah.
Sean and I always joke about like how we would never say no if someone said, would you direct Wonder Woman 5 or whatever like that, because it'd be great money. But you don't control that story. You have 15 million gatekeepers that are telling you what to do, and you're not really the artist behind that film. But when you have control, right, when you have authority, when you bring money to the table, you get to make the creative decisions. And then those fans, or that, I call them friends and family, I don't call them fans, but your network that you create, then it's like so much more meaningful.
Yeah. We still have a lot of time. I had a question, I don't remember it. Does anybody? Oh, you had something. Yeah.
I was gonna say one of the most interesting things, because I haven't really started filming my first story yet. I'm still in the process of writing it. But one of the things that always troubles me all the time is that, am I writing too much like that? I'm not gonna be able to afford this. Am I writing something that, like you said in the micro budget films, I would never in a million years be able to afford these type of effects or this type of, I guess, just location filming. So do you ever have trouble with that when it comes to your writing? Or
Yeah. What I try to encourage other storytellers to do is what I do is you write your story that you want to tell, and then you fix it afterwards. So I bring in a line producer. I mean, it's different for features. When I did shorts, I had to budget my own short. But when you're doing a feature, you can bring on a line producer who can budget your project. And they could break down, department by department, how much the film's going to cost. And then you could see what the eyesores are, and you could say, well, I'm going to get rid of that stunt dance with children and dogs. Well, yeah, that would be really expensive. Get rid of that stunt dance. And you would be surprised, how cheap some effects are. Fire is probably pretty cheap in terms of visual effects. I mean, is that? I mean, you would know. You're in post.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the VFX costs, depending on what they are becoming more labor costs than they are costs of the actual.
Yeah, make friends with an animator.
Yeah.
Make friends with someone who really knows After Effects.
The actual effect itself is probably not that expensive in terms of what it takes to make it. But in terms of how long it takes and how many people are needed to create it, that's where the cost is going to come in.
So when you're making a project, the red flags are, anyone who's under the age of 18 in your film will be more expensive. Animals, fights, anything that requires choreography, anything that involves putting something on a car, be expensive. Anything where you're on a rooftop, probably expensive. You could sneak some of these shots, you don't really need to do them legit. Sorry, Linus. You could get in the backseat of a car with a camera and figure it out instead of installing a rig on the outside of a car. Don't let it get in your way creatively, and then problem solve on how to replace those things after you've written the film. So what could be just as meaningful as this car crash? Maybe it is off-screen action, and that saves you hundreds, thousands of dollars. Maybe it's really great sound design. Maybe it's voiceover. There are solves, but I wouldn't suggest that you write it out of your script because there's a reason you wrote it.
Put it in there. Just, you rather hear from somebody that, we can't afford to do this, then it's better to hear that than to self-censor yourself, I could never pay for this, why bother? I think that if the script is right and you find the right people, you'll be able to do it.
Oh yeah, because if you'll
figure out a way.
Tarantino always writes songs into his scripts, and it's that's really expensive to have a specific request for a song, but he woos you, he seduces you by having you think of that song, right? So your goal as a writer is to seduce other creative people to join your team too. So don't take those things out until after you've got your team on board, and then surprise them by telling them there's no car crash.
Yeah, we got another one?
Yeah, so I have a question for production and post-production. So like, if you're making a movie with effects,
Mm-hmm.
like, when you're physically shooting it, what do you keep in mind? Is post there too, to see how they're gonna do it, and they're communicating with you, and then in post, there's something wrong, you have to reshoot, like if that doesn't match up, stuff like that, like what are some problems that you usually run into, and then your solutions for those?
Yeah, I'm
So
ready
the
to-
question,
oh,
I'll
sorry.
repeat the question.
Go
So the
ahead.
question was post-oriented, right? Like, so how do you anticipate the problems in post? And what are some of the, I guess you want to know, like, what are some of the things that she's experienced?
Yeah, and how
Yeah.
she fix them, just like, well, just things that are like generally you'll find, and then
Yeah.
how do you
Okay.
try to combat
Yeah,
them?
yeah. How do you fix movies in post, Liz?
Yeah. I have a wormhole in my second feature. My film is about how David Bowie's death creates a rift in time and space, and a wormhole appears. And I was on my way over here, on the car over here, and we still haven't figured out the look of the wormhole. And my visual effects guy could be on set for only few of the wormhole scenes. And now we have an inconsistent looking wormhole. So I'm battling this problem right now. Looping them in on all the conversations up front, bringing visual effects people to the location scout and the tech scout are important, because they're gonna have concerns. They might have some sort of, whether it's a green screen or whether it's just, a C-stand with like a green piece of tape on it, they're going to be able to tell you how much space they need to do the effect in a way that you might not be thinking about. So quashing all these concerns before you get to production is important. And then my visual effects guy was actually directing the actors on how to walk through the wormhole. So it didn't have to come through me, because I'm, there are a lot of things I do know about, but that is not one of them. Walking through a wormhole, I have no experience or knowledge about, but James does. So James would be telling our actors, lift your leg up this high and walk through it in this way, because this is how the wormhole is designed. And we sketched out what the wormhole would look like in advance. And there were all these lighting concerns that we did not solve that we're now solving in post. So, but you work in post-production. Do you have thoughts?
Specifically about VFX or something else? I think.
Yeah, cause you edit, right? You're editing post-production and.
I'm actually less on the editing side and more on just the coordination side.
Supervision,
but-
coordination.
Okay, so then, you get the footage, right, and you have your effects that you're gonna add in. How do you go about like smoothing it in, like making everything look believable?
Well, the VFX you're gonna probably have, for you have an individual, but you're probably gonna have at least an individual or a team. Ideally, they would have been on set.
Eye lines. A specific eye line for that effect that is like something that fits, eye lines, right? Like having something for each actor to look at. It's like a point that's marked. It's not like over to your left. It's like this is a piece of tape that you're both are looking at. Sells it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, and it's kind of the same in terms of picture editing. It's a process. If something's not working, you go back in and you look at it again. In terms of VFX, you're probably going to get, you're not going to get the full VFX up front. You're going to get a temp VFX that says this is, rendering, idea of where we're headed, and then you're going to sit down with either you or your team is going to make notes about it and say, well, we'd like to do this differently or that differently, and it's really just the process of moving toward what it is that you finally want, and because you're not gonna go in and have the wormhole day one. It's going to be a sketch.
We still don't have the wormhole.
Still not wormhole. It's going to be like a sketch of a wormhole, and in terms of this particular VFX, there's actually she's been sent like 20 different examples. He said I could do it this
There's
way,
so
this
many
way,
different
this way, or that way.
wormholes that I've looked at.
So it's narrowing down, well, we like the look of this one. And then once they say that's the one we want to go for, it's, how can we make that one improved? What can we do? Can we add a little light here, take a little light away, something like that. So it's, it's kind of just a process of going through and refining, really.
Yeah. There's a program at SF State that donates visual effects to productions. You have to work with them in advance. You have to pitch your project to them. But think of that as you create your projects. There are people who are willing to James won't want me to say that. He's donating all his work to me. That's how I wouldn't be able to afford any visual effects on my budget. He would be worth $50,000. That's half the budget of my whole film. So there are people who are willing to potentially sometimes to learn on your projects, and donate time in exchange for some, credit. We're giving James some associate producer credit for helping out. And I've also gotten him 5 jobs since that pay way better than I do because I pay him nothing. So.
Did that answer your question? Yeah. Good. Yeah. It was a lot, but it was a good meaty answer.
Yeah.
I want to. Can I bring Sean back into the fold here? So I have a question for you. So we have some students in the class that I know are actors. The acting is something that we teach here at LBCC. It's a different department than ours. It's more like theater. Mm-hmm. But can you impart some horror stories or empowering stories as an actor in LA? What is the terrain like? What has your experience been like? Should we all go get headshots now?
Well, depending on who's an actor out there, I've been lucky really to get the work that I've gotten, and I haven't been paid for it.
Sorry.
I think that there is a huge difference between acting and auditioning. I think auditioning is a different art form than acting is, and I don't think I'm actually particularly very good at auditioning. I may not be particularly good at acting, depending on your criticisms out there. But if that's something that you really want to pursue, there's probably 2 ways to go about it. One would be maybe taking a class in specifically auditioning. There's a weariness I have about that in the sense that audition acting can potentially interfere. It's like playing racquetball to improve your tennis game. It doesn't really work. But just like filmmaking, there's avenues that you go down. A lot of times I think it's meeting the right people and saying you're interested in being an actor and really they're carrying you. I think that has worked for me anyway. There's 1,000 different ways to fall into the system, just like in filmmaking. But I don't know that I would be particularly good at the whole go to the colleges, audition for the short films, and hope somebody casts you. I used to be on the other side of that because I was in school as a filmmaker too, casting people, and you'd have lines of 100 people with their headshots, and you feel sad for those people in a way. Not that I disparage them; they're following their dream, and God bless them for that. But I don't necessarily look at that as something that I could do. So, it's different for everybody, I guess is the way I would put it. I've been thankful to be where I am and would continue to do it if, more opportunities arise, which I hope they do.
Cast Sean.
I think one important lesson that I learned, and I learned this very late in life, was that doing the job and getting the job is 2 different things. And everyone in this room has a gift. Everyone in this room probably has multiple gifts, but no one knows it yet, right? I guess no one in quotes, right? So part of success, unfortunately, a large part of success is your belief in yourself and fitting, pretending you have the gig before you have it. If you don't feel that you can act or you can direct, you won't be an actor or a director.
It's delusional.
The first person,
Right.
the first
I mean,
person you have
it
to
is, though.
convince is yourself. And if you believe it, that's the first major hurdle. Most artists stop after they look at themselves in the mirror and they just choose something else. And I know a lot of people who are talented, like they have talent that I wish I had, and they're doing nothing with their lives. And I know people that are maybe on the other side of the spectrum. I mean, I'm speaking very generally, but people who might not be that great, but they're willing to persevere, you know?
I think kindness has a huge part of it.
The way you treat people, you know? Yeah.
I have a no asshole policy, like in when I am on a set and when I'm working on a film. And my whole thing is I want to meet them, and because I'm just terrified of assholes. And so like most of us are. And if I feel like we can get along and we can talk to each other, then I want to work with that person. So even just being able to communicate with someone on a human level is incredibly important. And then, like Linus is such incredibly talented composer, but what clued me in was like when we talked, we could connect and we could like emotionally be there. I also think something has to be said for getting the train moving, which is another analogy I like to use.
I love analogies. Yeah.
Once you tell someone you're going to do something, you increase your chance that you're actually going to do it. You're held accountable by one other person. So I use social media to hold myself accountable. I'll announce that I'm doing a project on social media. Now I have, not that anyone really cares, but I feel the pressure of my entire friend group on me to get that shit done. I set deadlines. I do calendar entries. I have my friends bug me, saying if I haven't done this by this day, if your permission to like post a really embarrassing picture of me on the internet, whatever it is to hold you accountable. But once you get that train going and you've convinced enough people you're going to make your film or do whatever your project is, I swear to God, it was the weirdest thing. People want to be involved with something that's actually happening. So you just have to, you don't even have to believe it. You just have to say it's happening and in a public forum. And they'll want to jump on board. That was so weird to me. I was very surprised by that.
It's like having, I love analogies, so I'll add one. It's like having somebody spot you at the gym, right? I mean, not that I go to the gym, but it's like that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like, if you're at the gym by yourself, you're like, I'm done, but if somebody's there, they're not going to let you get away with, cheating on your reps, right? And so you're basically just posting on social media to,
And they might want to work out right next to you after they spot
Right.
you and you spot them.
and maybe one day you'll help them make their first movie,
Yeah.
Yeah, these are all great questions. Yeah, go.
Yes, Sean, you had mentioned knowing the right people helps. So do you think it's more about who you know than what you know? Or
That's
should
the
you
golden
develop most of
question.
your time
Yeah.
as for acting? Should you develop most of your time networking and trying to talk to the right people, or developing your craft?
Is it, so I'll repeat the question.
Sure,
So
go
is it
ahead.
more about who you know than what you know?
That is the golden question for a number of reasons. The only thing I can really tell you is there is no set path. I think that there is probably 50% of people that they've found work because of who they know, and 50% because of what they know. It's probably not 50-50. There's probably some odd, weird breakdown of percentages, but it's probably something like that. I got into what I'm currently doing for work without really being someone who was up there going, I want to do post-production. Somebody give me a post-production job. It was more that I knew the right people and an opportunity opened up, and someone said, they're looking for somebody to help out in the editing room over here. Would you be interested in doing that?
Wait, I disagree. I
About
disagree
which
with
part?
how you got the jobs or how you got these jobs. I did a hashtag campaign called Operation Get Sean a Job. And this is how it happened. Is I went on Facebook and I posted, we're all gonna go get Sean a job. And that was how you started in post-production.
Well, getting slightly off topic.
So it's who you know.
I mean, the first job I landed in post-production was because probably somebody who had seen that
Somebody,
hashtag,
yeah.
somebody that we knew someone else who was leaving their job. So I got that job because they knew I was looking, possibly because of
Definitely
this.
because of me.
And I
Definitely
got-
all
and was able to
credit is
do,
on me.
That. So now I've been slightly distracted.
Oh, I'm
from
so
what the
sorry to
original,
distract you with the correct story.
element was. But to answer your question, it's a non-answer, which is I don't really know. For me, it was who I knew
It's who you know.
/ Facebook.
It's who you know.
Well,
No, I mean, like,
All
you
the
look
time?
at the way Sundance or Tribeca or Film Independent or all these curatorial arms in filmmaking get their filmmakers and support their filmmakers. It's through references. It's through recommendations. They don't do open calls. You have to impress everyone. It's a horrible world. That's why, you know, when I talk about marketing or social media, I highly encourage people to be human when they're in social media and just be themselves and not like a machine. And when you network, you ask the other person about themselves rather than talk about yourself. And then you build relationships slowly and over the long term. And that's how you get in on this industry, is through friendships, I think, and hashtags.
but friendships could be based on what you know.
You know. Yeah, I mean, I do want to reiterate and underscore the idea that you brought up several times, that kindness is the key. You know, I mean, people will remember you if you are good to them. You know, I think a lot of people don't embrace that enough, you know, but I mean, if you are willing to, you know, I mean, it's sort of like a stereotype, you know, in any major city, that every major city you live in, you're surrounded by jerks, right? But I think that if that actually were true, then you would be putting yourself in a special category of people that folks would remember if you were a good person, you know? So like, you know, people love to say, well, everyone in LA is an asshole or everyone in LA is a jerk, right? But that's all the more reason to be a good person, right? Because that's what's gonna set you apart, right? I mean, if two people are equally talented and one is sweet and the other one's a jerk, then I'm gonna go for this person who's sweet, you know? Even if that nice person was, I don't know how anyone could measure this, but if the sweet person was slightly less talented than the evil person, it's like, it would be no contest in my mind, you know? Like, to me, it's about the way you treat people rather than who you know, actually, I think.
That's a healthier perspective.
Yeah, well, try.
Than
you know.
my vindictive,
No, I mean,
want
yours-
credit for everything perspective.
No, I mean, that's, I was riffing off you. I had no idea you ran off in the other direction. So we have a little bit of time. Does anybody want to, you guys are very quiet, so I wanted to give
Are you not normally this
an
quiet?
opportunity. Well, I mean, I don't know because I'm usually talking the whole time.
Oh, okay.
But I want to give an opportunity for those of you guys who haven't said anything to kind of ask something, right? I mean, yeah.
I have a question about the very last picture of the film, like after the credits. Was it a proposal in German?
It was a proposal in German. This is a funny story. It's not going to be so cute in a second. I'm so
Oh,
sorry. In Kickstarter, one of the rewards I offered was if you give a certain amount of money, I'll put a line or a word in the film. A lot of those scenes got cut. They were pretty horrible. Like, people wanted me to put the word puffin in the film. Great word, hard to fit in the film. Someone said, I want to use your film to propose to my girlfriend. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. He's like, I want to do it in German. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. He gave me the German phrase. We thought, Martin, his name is Martin, we're like, we're going to put it as the last frame of the film. It's going to get its own special card. The film came out, and I'm like, Martin, what happened? What did she say? What's going on? Radio silence. I have messaged him 8 times. Nothing.
Oh, he didn't tell you what happened.
He has not
Oh.
told me what happened. Maybe they're happy. Maybe he just switched email addresses. Sorry, so romantic. So romantic. They're together. They have a huge family. There's lots of dogs. It's pastoral. No, I really am worried about that.
Yeah. You okay?
Yes. But cool for picking that up. Yeah, German.
But also, you know, to kind of go back, what a cool reward on Kickstarter,
Yeah.
right? Like, do you guys know how Kickstarter works? Right? You ask for a certain amount of money, and then there's levels, right? And you give a reward. Some people like give a DVD copy of the film out, or like a poster, a signed poster of the whole cast, or something like that, right? But that's like the most creative gift I've ever heard of, right? To allow the donor to put a line in the script, essentially, right? Yeah,
It's fun.
it's very clever. It's analogous to like offering producer credit or something, like it's something that's like big, but a lot of people don't, think about that when they're thinking to donate,
Well, it's also the whole thing is like be collaborative.
Yeah.
Like let your community weigh in on your film and be a part of the film. There were other scenes that we cut where people were promoting their band, and it became weird. Like there was a scene where someone was like, "Gosh, I'd love to pick up the new Susie Collins CD today," and like we cut it because it was so awkward, but we shot it. So.
Was that, so even if it was cut from the final film, did you include it like for the donor? Like did you,
I mean,
as
honestly,
an extra?
no one follows up. I'm constantly surprised the lack of follow up on Kickstarter. So we never
you owe
had
me
to
a poster or
prove that
something,
we shot it. I think we probably can. I mean, like I have the drives.
Yeah, it's somewhere, right?
Yeah.
One more question, 2 more questions? Come on, guys. Yeah, Cynthia?
The color white was always like around Amelia. Was that on purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the white watch and like.
Yeah, there was like a flower on her dashboard, her vibrator of white.
Mhm. And the white car, yeah. In the films, a little bit about her virginity and like things like that. Not to think.
Experience and everything.
Yeah, and we try not to like create a value judgment on virginity either way, but often it's associated with the white. Yeah. Thanks.
I also,
Go.
I also had a question about the Legoland role that you got. Since it's like animated, it's gonna be voice acting. How do you like I feel like that's a way another like subcategory of acting in itself. So like, how does that even? I don't know. What even my question? Like, just how? Like the voice acting role.
Well, I'm not acting in the Lego movie.
Oh,
I'm just working in the behind the scenes of it, and I've never done animation, so I don't know if I could really answer the question with
We did animation.
true authority. We did.
We did a music video, an animated music video where we played a cloud. Remember
Like,
cloud
I remember
faces?
the-
We did cloud faces.
How much voicing was there?
None. No voices. It was fun though. We like put white powder on our face. It's not germane to the story. All right.
I think it's also a longer discussion point too, because I think that voice acting has changed a great deal in the last 30 years, and how it's changed is probably not part of my expertise, but it used to not be star-based, like movie star-based. Voice acting was its own art form, and movie stars were not part of it, and now it's sort of become that every animated movie is headlined by gigantic movie stars, so it's a much longer discussion, I guess, in that sense.
You'll get on Lego Movie 3 though.
Yeah. I do have an uncredited voice part in this last movie, but
Nancy Drew.
yeah, it's very tiny, and I was never meant to be there. I just kind of wound up luckily being in it, but they can't give me credit for it for specific legal reasons.
Oh, the
We're gonna select one.
Nancy Drew
Yeah.
project? Oh, cool. Well, you have to let me know which scene it is when it comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Little party.
Did you have one more? Yeah.
Yeah, so in the film, I know, like he had mentioned that you didn't intend it to be a comedy at first. What was the genre you intended to be, kind of, like the feel?
I mean, I thought of it as, I compared it to films like Secretary, Me, You, and Everyone We Know, these kind of like indie films that kind of had quirky, subversive plot lines to them. Because to me, in my weird way, I think of this as a subversive film because it's criticizing romantic comedies. So, I mean, I remember there was a screening at Cleveland where people were uproariously laughing, and I was very confused by the whole process. So it was intended to be a dramedy. There's some jokes in there that I know are jokes, But I think other moments that I would think are just normal human moments, people are uncomfortable and they laugh. And so therefore it becomes a comedy.
Yeah, it's cause like everything for the most part the whole movie seemed to be like bright,
Hmm.
except for like the scene where she goes to dinner with that I forget his name, but that's the only one where I actually saw shadows in.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I was just kind of like, if that's what your intention was, like to not have as many shadows as possible.
Oh, that's so interesting. No one's ever said that. No, we just used natural light because we had no money. I mean, that's really why. I really like looming, effect when like it's kind of reflective behind an actor's shoulders, and it just kind of like creates like a halo effect. So I love seeing that on screen, and so we did a little bit of that, just because aesthetically I enjoyed that. And then the color palette was pastels, and that works well with natural daytime scenes. And then we didn't want to shoot in the night because it was more expensive and I was tired. So there was just really human reasons to why it was so bright.
Okay.
I think, one more in the back.
How did you feel about making bread and butter?
Does anyone know the phrase bread and butter? Like when no one, it's like, you have heard of it? Usually it's like 1%. And I like banked the entire film off of like me thinking everyone knew this phrase. Bread and butter, I grew up knowing the phrase bread and butter as like when you're separated by a pole or you're separated by some sort of partition in the road, you're walking with someone, you're holding hands. When you let go, you say bread and butter. The idea is like you'll always come back together. It's a superstition. So the hope for the film, which people may not get, is that she probably would come back to Daniel. It's a temporary separation, but they'd come back together.
Yeah, which has that kind of hopeful bent that romantic comedies have. You know,
Yeah.
I suppose it's like, I mean, it's an uplifting film for me. You know, to and I feel like uplifted when I watch a romantic comedy. You know, like there's, like somebody shares in your suffering, right? I mean, we've been talking this whole semester about how comedies are about finding common ground with the characters that you see on screen. And, I mean, I couldn't be more different from Amelia's character, but I feel like a connection with her. And I think that that's the rewarding part of watching a movie like that, like Bread and Butter.
What early comedies did you guys watch? Just out of curiosity.
Does anybody remember? What movies did we watch in this class?
Sucker Proxy.
We watched The Hudsucker
So
Proxy,
good.
yeah.
30 Wrong
What We Did in the Shadows, right?
It's like
Cinema
the best
Verite.
comedy ever.
Yeah.
Okay, these are great.
Yeah, well, but way back in the day, we did Doctor Takes a Wife. It's Loretta Young. It's great.
You know that?
It's a screwball. We did The Moon Is Blue, Otto Preminger. The first time anyone ever mentioned the word virgin on film.
Oh my gosh.
What else? I'm drawing a blank. I've done this so many semesters. I don't remember what we did. We did The Hudsucker Proxy. Which one? Oh, we did Kiss Me Stupid, the Billy Wilder movie.
I
That
know
was
you
completely
love that
forgotten. I
movie,
love that movie
but
so
I haven't
much.
seen that still.
It's his best,
I
I
should
think.
just take this
Yeah.
class. Are you taking it? Are you offering it again?
Oh, we'll do private tutoring.
Okay.
Yeah. We
What
did
about
it. We
Preston
did.
Sturges?
We didn't have time to put all of my favorites in there. I wanted to put the music box with the Lauren Hardy, but some things just didn't fit with
Chaplin?
what we showed. I showed a picture of Chaplin. We breezed through it. I think that I'll send you the list,
Yeah.
and you'll be like, why didn't you show this movie?
No.
This is a
I
ridiculous.
just want to
yeah,
add more movies to our queue to watch.
I'll definitely send it to you for that.
Cool.
I know that some of you guys have to take off, and I know you guys drove a long way to be with us this amount of time. So I want to invite you guys to all put your hands together for Liz and Sean. Yeah. And really, really, really awesome film, and thanks for sharing it with us and answering all of our questions.
If you guys want to email me at any point to talk about filmmaking, I'm an open door book, I don't know, whatever. It's just my name at gmail.com. And I have cards, and I can give you those cards. If there's anyone who had a question that didn't want to ask it in this room.
Yeah, you guys can come hang out with us down here,
Just
okay?
let me know.
The clipboard, did the clipboard go around? Okay, clipboard's in the back. If you have not signed, please put your name on it. And the handout that's coming around, that's the prompt for the final paper, okay? You have 3 weeks from today to turn it in. I know we're out of time, but I'll explain it first thing next class. Next class is our last class before Thanksgiving break, okay? So if you are not going to be here, next Wednesday, email me if you have any questions on the prompt, and I'll go over anything that you might have a question on, okay? Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for staying. Have a great night.
My pocket. Oh my God, I put it in my. Yes, I did. Hi.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah. Good questions, man. Yeah. Yeah. You're writing a. Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like, like kind of
Thanks.
like hers for sure, where it's definitely like,
Hi.
reflective upon myself.
Yeah.
They're for sure based off of like,
Yes.
certain aspects of myself, but also one of the main parts of the story, like the main theme is that it kind of like is my way of depicting, like, because I'm diagnosed with AD, so like it's kind of my way of depicting it's actually called the